Frith, hope all is well. This video, I just want to review what we've talked about already in Rune Yoga to help solidify the bigger picture of what's going on. In the first day, the main focus was on working with the body, and in particular, really in tuning with the energies and learning how to work with it, how to move it. So basically, with Feiyu, the focus is really just on starting to bring your awareness, which to me is one of our greatest gifts, and ultimately the thing that I feel we carry everywhere with us. It's movable, and I consider it to be wealth, right? Our ability to experience life through the senses and through the mind, So for me, the first focus is really just on becoming in tune and tuning with the energies and really refining that in tuneness. With urus, the focus is on and rooting the energy, because as we start to work with it more and more, it's really important to be able to root and ground the energy so that we don't screw ourselves over or negatively impact our environment. With Thursas, it's really about learning how to hone the focus and really focus on the energy. So all of the practices build off of each other. And so whenever we're working with any rune, all of these things that we've worked with and practiced and learned apply, right? So in Thursasm, it's really about focus. On Sus, I touched upon working with the breath and learning how to sync the breath with the consciousness, the awareness, and with the energy, so that as we move into Raido, then we start to learn how to really work on practicing to circulate the energy through our body, which among many other things helps to clear the energy and make us more aware of energetic blocks or things that are going on so that we can address them. With Kanaz, the focus is on really about building the energy. Gabo focuses on balance, and with Wunyo, part of it is just really enjoying life and really focusing on, as you're just being outside and you feel the wind on you and the sun's on you and the clouds are floating up there and the birds are singing and animals and creatures are moving around. It's just like being present in life and enjoying the bliss and the joy of it, right? Wunyo. But from the standpoint of the practice from the physical side, I really focus on relaxing, and just working on allowing the body to go through these movements or do these exercises, but to relax and to soften, so that we're not creating tension, which then negatively impacts the energy flow. So that was kind of like the gist of the first ayat. The second ayat now is, again, it's always still including working with the energy, and that's the case with the movements, because all the movements in some way or another are activating all the different parts of our body. And when I say activating, it's not like some magical thing. It's just we're just stimulating the energy. We're getting things moving, and when we do that, energy moves. The body warms up, right? I mean, that's just on the physical side of working with energy from physics. That standpoint. When we start to work with it in the the psychospiritual realms, like with our psychology and with the spiritual stuff in life, it has similarities, it correlates in ways, but it's in its own unique feel, its experience, and so on, right? So in the second ayat, the focus, the first part is really focusing on again, like with Feiyu, we're bringing our awareness not only to our body's energy, but to all things in our life. And so now, with that awareness in Hagalaz, we can start to really work with like breaking shit up. Starting, just from an energetic standpoint, when there's stagnation and stuff, you can move stuff, disrupt stuff, and it'll cause energy to flow. It might not be necessarily joyful by any means, but energy, things are going to start moving, shit's going to start happening, and hopefully, if we've kind of already started cultivating ourselves and working on ourselves, these changes won't be like drastic. I guess sometimes they're still drastic, but the impact on us from an emotional, mental standpoint is not as devastating, shall we say, like, because we're already, trying to improve our lives, trying to embrace life more, trying to invite more joy and happiness into our life, more clarity, more, less tension, less all the unnecessary and unwanted things in life, less of that. If we can make that happen, then we're trying to do what we can to control that. Because it's not like, if you live in a fucked up place, it's fucked up, right? So we try to do what we can where we're at, and just trying to invite more joy, more happiness, more peace. We work towards that. And for some, it might not be possible. I mean, that's just the reality of it. People that are in war zones and shit like that, or live in like devastating natural disasters. I mean, life sucks sometimes, right? So, but with Hagalas, energetically, we can use that energy to like start to break shit up. And then with Nadis, from the energetic standpoint, from the body, we're working on the spine, right? Working on different parts of the spine and getting it to move so that it creates more flexibility and integrity, and it just helps the energy to flow just up the spine, just from a physical standpoint. As it comes from cultivating ourselves with Nadis, now it's like, all right, we've broken shit up. What are we needing to do? What do we need? What needs to be done in order to create or invite or manifest what it is we seek to manifest. Yeah, so the focus is on what needs to be, or what are we needing, and so our mind goes in that direction. And when we're doing these meditations, we actually do the physical movement to help with the physical side of the energy, but our focus is on what needs to be, right? We have these goals or these things we want, what needs to be in order to make that happen. And then with Isa, it's really about centering and solidifying, right? It's that sense of bringing all this energy and all of this to what we're seeking, right? Our focus is solely on that. It is solidified and very clear within our mind's eye, right? And the energy, we're channeling energy in that direction. And so then the final part of this set of meditations and practices is with Yara, which is, I joke around with it, it's just like, all right, let's get started, right? Like you're starting the cruise, and so there's that movement. But it's also like, it's the harvest, it's the year, right? And it is what came about from our efforts and what we put into it, and the materials we started with, and then just circumstances in life, right? Like if we're thinking about gardening, if we planted good seeds, maybe we made sure we watered it and weeded it and cared for it, and the weather was conducive, then our fruit's going to be really good, right? Well, ideally, I mean, there's still slugs and everything else you have to deal with. It's not that cut and dry, but right, like some things are in my control, some things are not, and but what is in my control, I am taking control, right? I am at least moving towards taking control, because it's not like a snap of the fingers, right? And I really want to emphasize that. Sometimes things just happen. They just happen. You want it, it happens, or you set your mind to it, and then bam, bam, bam. But like sometimes it takes time, or sometimes major things have to change before things can manifest the way you want to. And so part of this process is it's like consciously reflecting on it, right? We're consciously seeking to manifest these things. That's what it's all about for me, is to figure out what needs to be done and then to do it, right? To move in that direction. And so Yara, to me, part of it from the past perspective is reflection, recognizing the fruits that you received, you got, or didn't get, and then figuring out like, all right, well, what do I need to do different, right? And then doing it. All right, so that kind of like sums up where we've come from, right? And like what Rune Yoga. The next part of the second Aya is going to be focusing on the energy and connecting energy with consciousness, and so like correlatively, it could be correlated to like trance work, but it's through the yogic system, which is a little bit more. It's just different, right? And so yeah, so with Iwas, the focus is going to be on working on that side of it, and then with Perto, it's really about digging into our self, the sense of soul, right? Like, what exactly are we? from the standpoint of the Nordic traditions, like how is the soul and the self understood. And so we'll be using what we talked about in Aiwas to start to really dive deep into ourselves. And then Algiz is it's a continuation of that process, as well as starting to radiate energy outward. And then with Sowilo, it's correlated with the Indian yoga traditions. It's working with the Kundalini and really wakening up and starting to send the energy and to affect change outside of ourselves, right? Yeah. So that's like where we're moving to next. And so all of this, working with and so this is why I want to emphasize, and I highly, highly, highly encourage you to go back and watch these videos to really bring more awareness, because it's kind of like when you're starting into a system, for instance, this Rune Yoga system, it's not all clear. Like we recognize these practices, and we can recognize that they're important in and of themselves. Like grounding, irregardless of how it's used, like grounding in itself is very important. Even just in like social interactions, if we're not grounded, we can really I think of the Havamal and someone just drunk off their ass and just spouting out shit, or just fools coming in and just coming and just jabbering along, and they're just being grounded is important in all facets of our life, right? Or learning how to build energy, all right? And that can include anything from just diet and getting sleep and taking care of our physical health and exercising and lifting weights, and so those are things that build strength, which then increase our capacity to work with more energy, just literally on the physical side. And so then on the psycho-spiritual side, it's like it has its own benefits as well, right? So like all these practices in themselves, we can look at and be like, yeah, all right, that's a solid practice, that's a good thing, irregardless of it being connected to some path in particular. It's just a good practice we should include in our lives. And then as we go along and learn about a path, then we can start to look at how, like, what's the direction. And so the direction with the energy and working with energy and consciousness and breath and focus and all those things, it's all connected to building and channeling energy, because it's that channeling energy linked with conscious awareness and breath that enables us to utilize it. For instance, when in Aiwas, we'll go through the process of doing the meditation so that we channel the energy through to the mind's eye, and at that point what we're focusing on, all that energy and focus and consciousness gets directed towards that one thing, and when you do that, shit happens, stuff happens, right? So yeah, so I hope that kind of like solidifies a little bit on where Rune Yoga has been, where it started and where it's been moving towards, right? And then, yeah, so until next video, I wish you well, be well and be blessed.
Odin, Thor, Freyr, Freya, Sif, Frigga.